Welcome back to Significant Recruiting with Matt Rogers, the bonus segment of the podcast where we get straight to the heart of the recruiting process with college coaches from every level. Today I'm joined by Kyle Crookes, head baseball coach at the University of Central Missouri, one of the top Division II programs in the country. In this episode, Coach Crookes shares exactly what he looks for in a recruit, why coachability and strength matters more than flash, and how players can separate themselves in a crowded recruiting class. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and visit CoachMattRogers.com, where you'll find tools, guides, and the chance to schedule a free recruiting strategy session to help you and your family build a smart, personalized plan for your college journey. All right, let's dive in. Here's my conversation on recruiting with Coach Kyle Crookes. Coach, I'm really looking forward to talking recruiting with you and getting your insights. But we ended our last segment and I asked you about if there was somebody that you would want to share a dugout with. And you gave me a great answer. You gave me Kevin Brooks. But after we stopped that segment, we talked a little bit more and it came to you that there was somebody else that you wouldn't mind sharing a dugout with. And I thought it was a really great answer. And it's a great coach to share with our listeners.
Yeah, I read the book and it's just Anson Dorrance, the longtime coach at University of North Carolina women's soccer. That's inarguably maybe the most successful coach in the history of college athletics.
Yes.
Did nothing but build a program from the ground up and just dominate for 30, 40, 50 years, however long he was a coach there. I know he just stepped down, retired. His personality, what he did for practices, how he addressed his teams, everything. Not just a day in the dugout, but man, a year watching that guy coach I don't even know if that'd be enough time, but that's somebody that I truly admire. I didn't want to leave that one off. The slow processing happened.
It's such a great answer. It's one that I often forget about, but when I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that might be the guy that we all esteem to be.
Oof, man, that's tough. I know they're the John Woodens of the world and the Ron Pauls.
Yeah.
By no means do I want to disrespect any of them, but the personality that I feel like that came through, at least the book that I read about Anson Dorrance, just seems to me like, and not a secret, I love soccer.
Yeah.
And boy, I think I would really learn a lot, but get a lot out of that and enjoy a lot of it too.
Very much agree with you there. And if you haven't read that book, it's a great one for young coaches to read too. It's just amazing approach. Yeah. All right, Coach, I want to jump into recruiting with you. I want to do about 15, 20 minutes. And really, this is for the student athletes out there, that 14 to 18-year-old, that mom and dad that are going through the recruiting journey, that high school coach who really is trying to help their kids get to the next level. You've built a nationally ranked recruiting classes at Central Missouri. What traits separate a D2 difference maker from just a good player? Because you see a lot of good players. Just about every kid I'm sure that you see at your camp is a good player. What does that D2 difference maker look like? What are those characteristics?
I think there are a couple of things they can do to be that. I will tell you strength, like the weight room is a big deal. Like the sooner you can be physical, the better, because that's what separates a lot of time the young from the old. You got a 23-year-old, your senior, that just possesses man strength, but also 5 years in the weight room that you don't as an 18-year-old coming into college. But you can handle that. If you know that when you start your high school career at 14, you got 4 years to build the best version of your body that you possibly can. And whatever that is, I would encourage guys to do that. I think that puts you in a position to be somebody that for us can see the field soon. Everybody's talents that they've been gifted may vary, but you can be a strong player. You can be a strong physical player that can impact the game through your work in the weight rooms, through something you can control. And I think that's a big thing that makes you a difference maker, because you can impact the game right away. We don't have to wait on you to develop physically, even though your skill set may be there, because you're playing at any level. When you transition from high school, you're playing at a different level. You're playing at a higher level, and you're playing against older dudes who don't care that you're 18. They just want to beat you.
That's right.
So, like, you better be physical. People talk about slowing the game down a lot, and I think those definitions probably run the gamut in terms of what that means. But there's a way to go about playing that I think really lends itself to having success for us immediately. And that becomes like the maturity of how you go about doing everything that you do to prepare to play. And it shows up when kids play. There's intentional reps versus just reps. And everything's got intentionality. And I think that's something that a lot of people just don't know. Ignorance, not a terrible word. It literally means you're not aware. You just don't know. You haven't been told. You're not taught. And I think a lot of people are ignorant in terms of what an intentionally prepared player looks like. And those things separate too. There's some guys that have an elevated sense of maturity that are more ready to help this program sooner because a lot of the things we're doing are in sync with how they've been thinking since they've been in high school. And then there's a lot of guys that they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing what they're told and they do as little as they need to because they're pretty talented and they move on. And then when they get here, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, I don't care how physical you are. We're going to ask you to do these things. And if you're not used to intentionally approaching practice in a certain way, it can be a challenge. We're investing there's a lot of emotional and mental investment in what we're asking you to do, a lot of understanding that we're asking you to do. And if you're not used to thinking about the game, you've just been better than everybody your whole life, that makes it tough. So it's the physical side of it that you can control, and then the understanding of like actual preparation for what we are going to do as a team. And some guys like really have a great feel for the game, and probably their fathers and or mothers or both play the game at a relatively high level. So those conversations are being had at home about how they practice versus, or they had an older brother that went through either the program or another program. I think finding people that have that background helps a little bit. It's a leg up, I think, on impacting a program right away.
For that parent that's listening to this, use one of your seniors as an example. What does that intentional prep look like? Give an example of what from one of your kids that's been with you for 4 or 5 years compared to a freshman walking the door.
Vance Tobel, who's our starting left fielder every day, has always been pretty physical. That's what got him here, I think. And he always just had a really good habit of finding hits. We weren't really sure what position he was going to play. And he redshirted his first year. And he continued to work on his body, but that was a strength. So I think that was something that he felt good about doing because he was good at it. But his intentionality became, okay, I'm no longer the biggest and the strongest anymore. I can see that. I need to find a way to be more of just touching the ball and being stronger doesn't work anymore. What do I need to do to be a great player for Central Missouri? And first was finding a position. So like he was always a hitter. So they just shoved him at third. They'd shove him at first. I think he pitched some in high school, just all over the place. Right. Find a position and own that position. And it took him a couple years because nobody really likes to talk about defense or how to be great at it. But that's like a number one priority for us when we're shoving guys out on the field. So, hey, Vance, and it took him a while. So he was an All-American DH for us before he was our left fielder. There's only one DH in the lineup. So you don't want to put yourself in that pigeonhole in high school. So right. Find a position, own it, be great at it, at all the details. And he has found a way to do that. Now he's our starting left fielder every day. And actually, at the beginning of the year, he had done so well that I started him in center. He's a fantastic athlete, but he's really grown himself defensively. And honestly, the biggest change he made was how intentional he was when he was at practice defending. It's when you're around a bunch of people that you love, it's really easy to talk and just not focus on the details that are right in front of you. And I can see it. I could see it in him from the day he made the decision to do it. And for the last 2 to 3 years, he's been as diligent a worker as anybody defensively. But it took him 2 years to get there. And then offensively, he found a routine. He's a very gifted hitter. That doesn't mean you get to just show up and hit. The other guy that's on the mound is on scholarship too, and he's probably going to pitch you big, strong guy a certain way. And you better be really good at understanding what that is and how to combat that, so to speak. So he's found himself an incredibly good routine. He shows up to the park before everybody else. He goes through his tee routine, his flip routine, his machine routine. And the best part about this is he normally drags somebody in with him. So they have to work with him, which is awesome because he's paying it forward.
It's great.
And so that guy's learning that diligence and he's doing it. And he did it before his All-American DH year, and he hasn't stopped doing it since. So that's 3 years of every day of being the first guy in the building to do what he needs to do to prepare to be ready for practice, to prepare to be ready for a game. And he does it before every practice and before every game. And he hasn't changed in 3 years. And that's what, to me, it looks like to grow up in this program and find a routine and a process that works for you, that pays attention to the details that you learn that we care about and that you learn are going to help you have success. And I think what's turned him into the player that he is today, 374 with 19 home runs and 64 RBIs.
Wow. That's a hell of a year.
And it's hitting in the middle of the order and it's playing the outfield every day. It's from a place where when he got here, we weren't sure where he was going to play. We weren't sure what he was going to do. And he did it intentionally and grew himself into being what he is. Man, I can't be more proud. And he's a leader because of how he does it. He doesn't have to speak about it. He's not any of that. But as I said, he drags people to early work with him and they're better because of him. And he's teaching them routines and how much it matters. And guys that have grown up with him that are the same age as him know how he's transitioned from being, we don't know a position, to being a DH, to being an everyday outfielder for us. And they've watched the growth process too. So other people can speak on what he was and what he's grown into. And he becomes an example for this program.
Sounds like the definition of a multiplier to me.
Yeah, that's a great word for him. And ain't nobody else you want in your group pushing a sled other than him. I can tell you that right now. He will bring the wall for everybody, and they would do the same for him.
Love it. I'm sure you've seen this movie, but it's one of my favorites, The Love of the Game, Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
My favorite part of that movie is when he can step on the mound and go clear the mechanism. And it just sounds like this young man in yours, he gets that. He's able to find that funnel that he can get into before a game, before he steps in the plate, and he can clear the mechanism. And you just see that. We talked about Kyle Tucker before we started. You just see it. It's all of a sudden, it's like they get a bubble around them and they're not going to let anything affect that routine and that discipline. Right?
Yep. Yeah, you can feel it. It's way harder in a game to do that. But what he does is he puts himself in a position to be as right as he can possibly be for every game. And he knows it. And yeah, man, when he's locked in the box, everybody in the park knows. And there's no avoiding it.
So fun to watch.
It is.
Real quick, I want to go back to lifting and strength training.
Yeah.
High school, weight rooms, kids bench, squat, curl. Are there things that you want a baseball player doing now to keep those core muscles, the obliques, the adductors, abductors? Is it yoga? Is it Pilates? Is it ball work? Are there things that your strength conditioning coach is doing?
I think there's tiers of this. I don't think people lift enough in high school. I just don't think they take the opportunity to do it. We have certain KPIs, like key performance indicators, that we use and we hand out to the guys that we recruit, right? If you don't front squat 400, if you don't bench 225, if you don't deadlift, I can't remember I don't know if it's 385 or 485. Like, those are the top performers in our program. Like, strength means something.
Yes.
So, like, the Olympic lifts matter. If you don't want to clean, I get it, high pull, but move weight and get strong, please. And if somebody's willing to Pilates and they're willing to yoga and they're willing to water bag and rotate and do rotational movements and stability movements and some things that become more specific to the movements we make as baseball players, awesome. But I would encourage people to get under a bar and move heavy weight. I'll give the disclaimer. I don't want anybody to hurt themselves, and I'd rather you move the weight properly than just breaking yourself to move weight. You need to move weight. You need to squat. You need to put a bar on your back or on your shoulders and squat. You need to deadlift. You need to bench, because they're resilient bodies. You're loading your spine and your body becomes more used to handling the stress that heavier lifting produces, whether it's high volume, but I think safely moving into higher weight is a thing. And I think we've gotten so far down the rabbit hole of baseball specific training that guys forgot that big leaguers are huge and they're strong. And yes, they move well. They're incredibly good movers. And that does come with it. And there's something to understanding that. But if you're a great mover and you're Gumby and you're totally weak, who cares? Unless you're Chris Sale, I don't know that it matters. And most of the people we're dealing with aren't that. So you got to get strong. And you can do that. It takes zero skill to get under a bar and squat and do it repeatedly 3 times a week for 4 years in high school, and watch what happens. You're the best you can do in a uniform. You feel pretty good about yourself. You're pretty strong. And when you make contact, the ball's probably going to go. Or if you throw the ball, it's probably going to go faster, or whatever. You're going to be a better runner. You're going to be a better everything because of it. And I see guys go to trainers and facilities and stuff all the time. And these facilities are like, cool, you're shaking a water bag on one leg. Like, I get it, but I'm sure there's a need for that. But does the 14-year-old need to do that? Or does he just need to get strong? Let's get him strong and let's see what he can do after he achieves a certain amount of skill. And then you can make him shake a water bag. Cool. But
what all that does for injury prevention, it's volumes of how a kid's going to stay healthy throughout his career, playing 40, 50, 60 games in a season. If you're not strong, your body's going to break down. Your
We
joints.
lift during our season. We
Yeah.
lift 3 times a week during our season. We lift 4 times a week in the off season. And because what's the point of lifting 4 times a week if you're not going to lift during the season anyway?
Yeah.
So we do. And we lift heavy weight in the season. And we do a bunch of plyo stuff. And our strength guy does a really good job. But it matters. And this is about being recruited too. Like,
Yeah.
what do you look like in a uniform?
That's right.
And again, this is things that I didn't know, and I didn't do well enough as a player in high school. I didn't.
Me too.
So
Me too.
I'm telling other people because I think it's valuable.
Yeah. Yep. I didn't get it till I saw a story on Michael Jordan bench pressing 45 minutes before playing a basketball game. And I'm like, oh my God, he just bench pressed 400 pounds before he went and played a basketball game. And then made 6 threes. I want to talk to families about this because there's a lot of parents that don't get this. The numbers you throw out for bench and your squat and what you're looking for, that's 18 to 24 months of work if you haven't done a lot of that. It's a development. So if you're 14, man, you might only be benching 60 pounds, 80 pounds, but
whatever it is.
Every 2-3 weeks, can you add 5 pounds to that and do it right? If you're going to work with a trainer, find somebody that's going to teach you how to do it right. So I love that, coach.
Yeah, I'd rather them spend time in the weight room with a trainer than with a hitting coach at that point. Like, because figure out the skill once you're strong enough to do it.
Yep. All right. When you're talking to a recruit, what signals to you that the kid is actually coachable? And you talked about parents nodding their head and not just saying the right things. Is there things that you hear and see in a recruit that tell you this kid's ready to be coached?
Man, I wish I had that answer.
And maybe there's a red flag for you.
Yeah, so I guess I go to that, and this is directed at the parents. Parents become the red flags. If the parents are speaking for the child, the 18-year-old man at this point in time, or 17-year-old boy or whatever, if they're doing most of the talking, that's problematic for me. Because yes, we're recruiting the whole thing. The kid is going to be going to school here. And if he can't communicate with me because the parents are too busy doing everything, that's a red flag. How the kid interacts with his parents, good and or bad, is a red flag too. So if they don't treat their parents well, I have an issue with that. They speak to their mother, their father in a certain way that I would consider disrespectful, and it's hard for me to be specific, but I've heard it. Like when somebody says something that makes me cringe, I'm like, no way, my dad would hit me if I said that.
Exactly.
But so those two things become red flags. Eye contact, body language, facial expressions are all things that we like to see. I like to engage the player in and of himself and ask his opinion on a couple things. And if he can respond, and it's not always easy, but if he can respond in clear, concise answers, or there's been a bunch of kids, honestly, that we've recruited that have had really good conversations about what their processes are. And we haven't signed a bunch of them or they've gone other places. But those are kids I think that are going to end up having a decent amount of success because they understand already, hey, this is my process. And we may adapt it or we may hone it or refine it a little bit, but having a process for how they succeed now is a pretty good indicator of them being willing and open to doing that later. I think red flags are probably more what we look for because what we're doing is we're watching a kid play and he's shown us he can play at a level that we think will help us 2 or 3 times. So now it's about, okay, are there things that stand out once we get a chance to meet him and his family that would deter us from recruiting him any further?
And for all my kids out there that I coach and work with on your recruiting, you just heard it from coach. So you wonder why we work on your process so much and why you do what you do and what drives you and why you work the way you work. That's why we do it. Because coaches
we know, did we just catch you on a good day? If that's the case, then we got our one. That's probably, we're going to need more than that. So if you can repeat what you did, that's a big part of it. And our job is to help you with that too. But man, if you already have an idea as to what that is, boy, that's huge.
Love it. Is there a common reason why you stop recruiting a kid with a ton of talent? Kid that's throwing 93 mile an hour, a kid that's already in the weight room, already batting 450 and killing. Is there a reason?
He told us he's not coming. Probably that would be. Oh, he's going to Angelo State or Tampa, or he's going to go to Mizzou or KU.
But why would you pull away from a kid? Why would you stop recruiting a kid with that talent?
Watching him play and realizing what the talent is, but then he acted in a way that was really not in line with what our values are. He's a selfish teammate. I think Tim Corbin did a really good job of taking the lid off this a long time ago. How does he interact with his teammates? How does he handle success? How does he handle failure? How does he handle the umpires? What is he doing in between innings? Is he engaged with his mom in between innings? That's a problem. I don't want that. Some of those things, I think they'd be egregious. I think most people would probably see those things and say the same thing. And then honestly, on your recruiting trip, who are you? If you're doing us a favor by being on this trip, then sorry, that's not what this is. That's probably going to be what it is, a feel for whether God's gift has made himself available for us to recruit him. And if that's what it is, sorry, I'll take the blue collar kid that's still got work to do.
I'm laughing, Coach, because you're answering 3 questions for everyone I asked. It's awesome. You're knocking down everything on my list. For recruits hoping to play at a top tier D2 like UCM, what's the one thing they should be doing right now that most aren't?
Depends on how old they are. I mentioned the weight room. I think you need to care about catch play. If you're a position player, that's awesome. You got to be able to hit. That's a tool that's really difficult to teach and to be successful with. So saying there are 8 positions on the field to play as a hitter, and being really good at defending in one of those positions is probably your best way to get to us. Athleticism makes a huge difference. Your ability to make outs, that's the name of the game. We talked about the lifting side of it. I think that lends itself to the speed side of it, and care about the entire part of the game, not just the hitting side of it. Hitting is the most fun. It's the least successful. So I get it. When you have a bad game, what do you go to the cages and you go, cool. But if you can't defend, what am I going to do? There's only one spot on the DH role. So again, like catch play is a huge deal. Your ability to handle the glove, handle the ball. We play in the Midwest. There's wind everywhere, all over the place. If you can't throw into a 30-mile-an-hour headwind, you can't play the infield for us or for anybody probably. But those are things that I don't know that high school kids are aware of. And so you better value the baseball. You better make outs and balls that look like they shouldn't be outs into outs. And you better learn how to dive. You better learn how to give effort. You better learn that's something that matters to me and matters to us, and make it matter to you, because it's going to be the difference in the game more than likely. And we feel if you possess the ability to hit a little bit, but you can really defend, then we got a spot for you. But like I said, I think the weight room and the value of the entire game, not just the I can hit part of it. Because what if I go watch you play two times, you get 8 at bats and you go 0 for 8, but then your next 4 at bats, you're 4 for 4. You're 4 for 12 at that point in time, and you're hitting 333, which is good. We all know that. But if you didn't defend at all after you're 0 for 8, I'm like, you didn't really do anything else either.
Yeah.
What do I go do?
Yeah.
You're always defending. You're doing that. The game's 3 hours long. Your at bats take 2 minutes, a minute. What are you doing for the other 2 hours and 50 minutes? You better be defending and playing catch at a high level.
Yeah. Go look at the Boston Red Sox. They had a world-class $200-300 million third baseman, and he didn't field very well last year, and they just went and signed another guy to come in and play third and moved him to DH. That translates all the way up the board.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Mafi. Yeah.
Last question, Coach. You've been great, and I so appreciate your time.
Sure.
I'm going to give you a little hypothetical. I'm a small town kid, town of 2,000 people in northern Illinois. Okay. I'm a catcher. I bat 420. I got a 1.8 pop time. The leader of my team. I have great grades. I'm a high character kid. I play 3 sports, but I'm in a town of 2,000 people and nobody knows I even exist. How do I get you to recruit me? Because you're not coming to northern Illinois. You're not coming to my tiny little conference. How do I get you to recruit me?
You send me an email yourself. No offense, no NCSA or any of the other stuff.
No, you're speaking my language.
You send me an email. I really don't care about stats myself personally. I don't. I would care, and part of it is because God love the managers and the coaches or whoever that are putting those stats together, but none of them are accurate. So it doesn't matter. So corresponding video, please. Let me see what you are, and then let me say, okay, I see, like, we can tell how you move. We can tell how you throw a ball. We can tell how your swing works to some degree. I can't tell you everything. So then we have a decent idea. And then we can say, okay, come to camp. Will you come to camp? Are you interested enough to make the 6.5, 7-hour drive from Edwardsville, Illinois to our camp and come camp with us, where you'll showcase all your tools and talents and on metrics, and then you'll play in a game and we'll get a chance to watch you compete. And we'll see how you engage in other people that are somewhat strangers, which is what college is going to be. We'll see how your skills apply to the field in game and out of game. You'll interact with us as coaches, and we'll be the genuine versions of ourselves. And hopefully you are too. And then we'll probably have a conversation afterwards. And if we like what we see and we're hunting that position, then, you just got yourself recruited. And that happens to us a lot. And people, I think, scoff at camps because I can see like they're money makers for a bunch of places. But for us, I think we have 16 or 17 guys on our roster from camp. We invite people to camp that we want to see that we can't see during the spring. Because guess what we're doing during the spring? we're playing. So
Yeah.
you can't drive to Illinois when you're playing high school baseball in the spring. Like, it's not going to happen. And in the summer, unless you're coming to KC or if you're playing in a tournament in St. Louis, like, there's probably going to need to be another reason why I'm there to see you, but you'll be one of the many. And if it works out that way, great. But if you want to leave it to chance, then that's what you're doing. Or you can communicate with us directly, come to camp, tell us you care, show us you care, and let us see. And that's a guaranteed way of getting in front of us for us to say, yes, no, maybe. This is what you would have to do if it's maybe. And I think it's like an unofficial visit. You get a chance to see the facilities, everything else. You get a chance to learn us, the whole thing. I could not be a bigger proponent of camps when they are set, at least for us as a program and for players. And that's what I got a 16-year-old son. That's what I tell him to do. If you want to go play, go show up to the places that you think you want to play at and go to one of their camps and make an impression. And then you'll know. And maybe you'll come back and say, I hate that place. I don't want to go there. Or maybe you'll come back and say, I wasn't good enough. They don't want me, whatever the case. But at least, whereas if you don't, you just hope, then I don't think that's a strategy.
Yeah. You're probably getting 200 of those emails a week, I would imagine, somewhere in that world, right?
It's in the hundreds for sure. If I can delineate that it's from an individual specifically, not from
an organization, you want it from the
organization, then I'll read them all. If they have video closed, I'll watch. And then if it's video that I find intriguing and I can gather enough info on just watching them move, then I'll invite them to camp. And I do it myself. I don't have anybody else doing it. It's me, Coach Backus, Coach McFadden, come to camp and let's check it out and see. I just got one from a left-hander yesterday, and I want to see him. The video looked good. 100 feet away.
It's terrible.
It does me no good. And I get it. We're not supposed to all be videographers and everything, but I got to be able to see what I need to see. But it was like, okay, this is pretty intriguing, and there's something we need to look at. Please, Wesley, come to camp. Come to camp.
Yeah. If you're a lefty pitcher, I got to give you an extra look. I just got to.
The arm works good. He's a pretty decent athlete. He took a good swing. He moves right. There's something to grow with. And what's fascinating about the added part of this is what other people say about you. And there's another kid that played against him that happens to be on our team. And he's a really humble kid. And it's a small enough world where, your actions are going to speak to enough people where it'll get back around. I couldn't tell you how much I enjoy hearing that somebody's a humble kid that's a good player.
Love it. I'm with you.
Good person, good boyfriend, good son, whatever it is. It's way easier to go on that than it is to something that's not.
It's always great to hear when somebody can say, I don't know what we're going to do without him. Or, man, I don't want to stop coaching or teaching this kid. I don't want this kid to leave. That says volumes, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, no question. He makes us better.
It does. Yeah.
What a great teammate. Man, was there a better compliment than that?
Coach, it was fantastic. I love talking to you. I love your perspective. Thank you so much for the advice you've given to parents and these kids. The more they understand the reality that you're a human being, you're empathetic, you have compassion, but you're running a program. It's a big business you're in charge of, and you got a lot of people you're responsible of, and who you bring into that school, that organization, that culture is so important to you. So thank you for sharing those things. I don't think families can hear it enough, what you shared.
Conversations need to be had between children and parents and coaches and everybody else. The more of those they have and the less they avoid, I think the better for everybody.
Thank you for everything, Coach. And again, good luck the rest of the way. We'll be cheering for you and the guys, and we know great things are coming.
Thanks so much. Appreciate your time.
And that's a wrap for this bonus episode with Coach Kyle Crookes. Whether you're a player, parent, or coach, I hope you're walking away with clarity on what it really takes to get recruited at the high level. Thanks, Coach Crookes, for sharing all those great insights. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe and leave a review, and head over to CoachMattRogers.com to explore all the tools available, including my 5-star rated book, Significant Recruiting, and the chance to schedule a free strategy session to map out your next steps. I'd love to work with you and your family and at least get you started on this journey the right way. Thanks for listening, and remember, you don't need hype. You need a plan that removes mere chance from your equation. Make your recruitment journey a significant one, and we'll see you next time.